The Supreme Court had a clear message for the federal government today: properly consult with Indigenous groups or put resource project approvals at risk. A Norwegian consortium wanted to do seismic testing off the shores of Clyde River, a remote community in Nunavut. The Inuit were worried their search for oil would harm or kill marine life they depend on. The National Energy Board gave the project the green light. Today, the court ruled that decision was wrong.
Joyful and happy, we did it. We've been fighting over 3 years now.
The court ruled that these consultations fell short, calling the inquiry misdirected. The NEB didn't consider the Inuits' treaty rights and didn't consider the impact of their proposed testing on those rights. Their lawyer says this sets a clear standard for how the federal government must engage with Indigenous groups, a relationship it describes as its top priority.
The duty to consult Indigenous peoples must be taken seriously. Government cannot simply pay lip service to solemn constitutional obligations.
It was a different story for another resource project. Enbridge applied to expand its pipeline Line 9 to move heavy crude from Ontario to Quebec, triggering widespread protests. The Chippewas of the Thames First Nation was worried about possible spills on their land. But in this case, the court said there were proper consultations, calling them robust. The NEB did consider the potential impacts on the First Nations' rights, gave it a full opportunity to make its case, and even imposed conditions on Enbridge. In a statement today, Enbridge promised to foster a strengthened relationship with the Chippewas of the Thames and all Indigenous communities, built upon openness, respect, and mutual trust. Which is how it should work going forward, says the Federal Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
Resource companies know they've got to engage really early, like at the idea of a project.
In a ceremony in London, Ontario today, the chief of the Chippewas of the Thames expressed his frustration and disappointment. But others say these rulings are a victory for Indigenous groups, that the highest court was clear today. It's not just companies that must consult. The federal government must make sure Indigenous views are heard. Susan Lunn, CBC News, Ottawa.